I'm here with our front bench, Sharon Carr, Genevieve Tomney, Sebastian Skamsky, and Jamie Ellerton to talk a little bit more about the politics behind all of this. Jamie, I wanted to start with you. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if I track sort of the Conservatives over the summer and their press conferences, they have definitely leaned harder into the issue of immigration. I would say capped off by today's announcement to get rid of the TFW program completely. Do you agree that that's been the case? And if so, what do you think is motivating that? What is the strategy behind it?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, Vashi, and I think there's kind of two things at play here. One, we don't know when their election is going to be, and there are a lot of people who feel shut out from this current economy, who have concerns about immigration and impressions of the system, regardless of what the facts are, impressions of the current system. We know that the previous government lost control of the immigration system. This government is now trying to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, and Conservatives need something to keep their supporters engaged, as well as those who voted Conservative for the first time, to get that 41% mark that Pierre delivered in the last election, but wasn't enough to keep them engaged in the Conservative fold. So I think part of what you're seeing here is trying to talk to people on issues that allow them to connect with them while the government's doing what the government's doing. Part of this is a bit of a South Park meme of like, they took our jobs and trying to wrap ourselves in the flag, because we know that when it was a battle of who could better wrap themselves in the flag, Canadians chose Mark Carney last time around. And so I think they're trying to create some space there. And on the other piece of this, I think they are looking at how the temporary foreign worker program is being abused. I think they're trying to take a hammer to it by scrapping it altogether. I worked for Minister of Immigration Jason Kenney back in the day, and there are a lot of people who will tell you Canadians won't take the jobs that temporary foreign workers are straight up doing. There's a reason why today they announced they weren't going to get rid of the agricultural stream. It's because Canadians will not take those jobs. And so I think they're using a blunt force to try and generate headlines to talk about this issue and give them a rhetorical frame to fill. But I don't think this is like fully baked policy, and I don't think they're trying to actually do that. And they're trying to talk to the Canadians who voted for it in the last election to kind of continue to say, hey, we hear you're struggling. We want to fix things that in theory they're trying to present will make better, but in practice may not be the case.
Genevieve, what do you think the strategy is behind leaning further into immigration, capped off with an announcement like today? And what are the potential pitfalls in your view of doing so?
Yeah, well, I fully agree with Jamie that this was a half-baked policy designed to get headlines. I mean, this is part of Mr. Poilievre's ongoing struggle to stay relevant right now. And I know, Vashi, you asked the critic about this. When you talk to academics or you talk to economists and people who actually study the youth unemployment issue, the thing that they point to as the main driver of youth unemployment in Canada is the weakness in our economy. And that is exactly what this Prime Minister was elected to come in and start to address, and what he has spent the last 6 months focused on in terms of, getting us to the point where we have a stronger domestic economy and really focusing on that. So I think that this is really creating a bit of a sideshow, and I think it can be damaging. What we've seen is that there have already been a lot of restrictions and changes made to the policies around immigration, and I think it's prudent to wait and see what the knock-on effects of those changes are going to be before we make any more.
Yeah, I think, Sebastian, a couple of things as I was listening to the press conference today of Ms. Rempel-Garner and all of you that come to mind. I do think that the former Liberal government was very late to the issue of immigration policy changes, kind of like was forced there. And we're still seeing some impacts of that. So they remain somewhat vulnerable on it. And I also think that they haven't talked enough about how hard it is for youth to find a job and how high that unemployment rate is. At the same time, it's like a fine line for the Conservatives to walk to blame all of these issues on immigration. I think there is no hard evidence to back that up in its entirety. Is it part of the problem? Sure. Is it the whole problem? No one has shown me any proof that it is.
Well, first of all, I would say I don't think anyone is suggesting that Ms. Rempel-Garner or Pierre Poilievre are blaming entirely on this. It is, though, a significant problem and a significant chunk of the issue. Look, just before the break, Sharon said it's only been 6 months. Let's not assess the outcomes. But in those 6 months, when Prime Minister Carney was Prime Minister, in fact, the Liberals had allowed 105,000 temporary foreign worker permits. That is a staggering number. So in those 6 months, he took action to employ temporary foreign workers, and put Canadians in the backseat. I think the example cited by our immigration critic about companies across the country who are requesting the assistance of temporary foreign workers for really entry-level jobs is concerning, at most generous, and it begs the question of why this program is even in existence when it is very clearly hurting the population that is struggling the most. I will also point out that while the boomers of Mr. Carney's coalition put their elbows together in support of him, it is the young Canadians who had been suffering so greatly after 10 years of Liberal rule who have been really on the outs, who are feeling completely disconnected from society, disconnected from the workforce. Those are the people that are increasingly supporting Mr. Poilievre and common sense policies like this. Let's give those Canadians a leg up. Let's let them have a fair kick at the can when it comes to starting their career. And I think that's really what this policy is about, and I think it'll resonate very strongly with those that it affects so closely.
Yeah, I do understand the point, Sharon, about sort of like the young, and we saw it in the demographic shifts in the last election, right? The younger generations and the frustrations that they feel, and those numbers from Stats Can about unemployment back that up. I just also think that there are potential vulnerabilities in casting immigration as even close to any kind of a silver bullet.
It 100% is, and listening to that interview and watching that interview that you did with MP Rempel, quite frankly, was infuriating. I'm going to be quite frank and honest. We are the Conservative Party, and Pierre Poilievre and MP Rempel are treading a very dangerous line of what I'm going to call a dog whistle of racism. Because if you want to have a conversation about the fact that we have an issue with immigration, we do, not because they're immigrants and they're coming in and taking away. It's because our society and our system hasn't kept up. We don't have enough housing. We don't have enough resource put in place to help everybody. So let's have that conversation. But to say it's foreign workers that are taking away jobs from Canadians and the solution is youth, to me is simplistic. It's nonsense. And honestly, it's like, let's talk about taxi drivers, for example, in major cities. There is a reason why taxi drivers look like my skin tone, because unfortunately there are people who come to this country who are willing to do jobs that we're not going to get other people to do. So if you think that students are going to do that, I think it's completely a sledgehammer policy they're trying to put into place. There's a demographic, there is regional considerations, and students are not going to solve it. And quite frankly, I found it offensive, because what they're doing is they're tapping into the people, and I'm not saying all Conservatives, but Pierre Poilievre has tapped into a base of Conservative voters who have made extremely racist comments against immigrants. We saw that when we saw universities and colleges abusing foreign student attendance in their schools, and we see it online. And what they're doing right now is race baiting, and I find it, quite frankly, offensive.
I got 30 seconds for Sebastian, because I gave you the rebuttal last time. I'll give you it. The only thing I would quickly say is I understand those concerns, but they were clearly lying the blame at the feet of the Liberal policy at this point in time. But I do understand the concerns. Sebastian, last word to you.
Sharon, I mean, so much of that is absurd and I think so inaccurate on what is actually the truth. I'll remind you, it was the United Nations actually that looked at Canada's temporary foreign worker program and said that a lot of it is reminiscent of modern day slavery. So it is not just the Canadian youth who can't get jobs. It is also these people who are taking these jobs who are being often mistreated and who are working, being underpaid, and it's effectively indentured servitude. So I very strongly reject that premise.
Okay, we will keep the debate going. I appreciate everyone